Right, we'll straight into it. The new album, Detritus of the Final Age, is out next week, 9 days' time as of recording. Yeah. Can you explain a little bit? Oh, sorry, go on.
No, that's it's creeping up on me, that release date.
Yeah. Can you explain a little bit about the album title?
Well, the first, 3 albums were kind of like the trilogy that we did, which was, Origin, Proliferation, and Extinction, and that was kind of a callback to my days as a apologies for that. My days in, chemistry and biology at university. The life cycle of any kind of species. There's a start, there's an exponential growth, and then there's a dying off phase when you run out of food and resources. And I'd always pictured that trilogy, just doing 3 albums. And then so when it came to doing 4, I had to think of how I would follow everything being dead. And that's what Detritus of the Final Age is. That is the waste left over after the last epoch of mankind.
Interesting. It's the perfect era to release an album like that, I think.
Yeah, well, it's just getting worse and worse and worse as the years go by. My music becomes more and more relevant.
Which is great for you.
Yeah. No, but everyone thinks I'm in on it now.
It was you that started hoarding all the toilet paper, was it?
Yeah, it was, oh my God. What an embarrassing thing to witness. What a pathetic thing for people to do. Like, I don't have a lot of faith in humanity, but even that was, like, impressively fucking banal.
Well, how does this one differ musically from Extinction?
I like to say that it's our most mature release, but I'm pretty sure everyone does that, because it would be a really terribly poor marketing idea if you described your next album as kind of a step back. So obviously I like to say that this is the best thing we've ever done. I think musically it's a bit more diverse. It's quite refined. I paid a lot of attention to like tonal themes, song to song. Making sure that from start to finish, a track made sense. Like, you could listen to the first third of it and the last third of it, and you would know that they were the same song, but just by not by like repeating verses, but by like how they actually felt as a track. So I paid a lot more attention to stuff like that. Sonically, it's I think our best production ever. We went through a different studio and implemented a lot more techniques. Probably did it a little bit more classical than how people tend to record albums these days. The first 3 albums we did with all those modern production tricks of reamping and tracking, and then just sending that signal straight through an amp, and then putting the drums to that. Whereas this was getting all the drums done, and then playing bass, take after take to those drums, and then layering guitars on top and kind of writing the parts as you go to make sure that it fit what was already there before it. So I think the question was about how this one differs from the others. It was a while ago now, but I think it's definitely got our sound on it, but it's got a little bit more polish on it. It's vocally, it's my best and like evilest delivery. The studio producer and engineer pushed me real hard on that one, so I'm pretty happy with that. I couldn't speak for weeks after recording all the vocals, but it's just another step up from what we've done before.
Yeah, I mean, listening to the 2 songs you've released so far, I would definitely agree. It's a more refined approach. I mean, the title track itself, the chorus to that is so catchy. And well, I think so anyway. But
I like to throw some hooks in every now and then for good measure.
Well, yeah, why not? And also,
that's how we make the big bucks.
Going to play golf now.
Yeah.
Somebody teach me golf.
I'm off to do 18. Let me know when the pies are done.
But As We Breach as well, that's really good. Again, that's not catchy in like a hook kind of way, but it's really enjoyable. It's really fun. It's which is a little bit strange considering some of the lyrical aspect
It is
of
a
it,
really,
but it's
really fun song about
it is. You know,
about a decrepit species.
Worked for fucking Testament and Slayer and
Yeah,
everyone
mate.
else.
It's been working since 1982, as far as I'm concerned, so, and beforehand. So yeah. Look, I don't write particularly. I try and make sure that my music's enjoyable to listen to, but also a little bit ugly in a couple of ways.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to the lyrics, I always make sure that those lyrics are, poetic in their delivery and kind of beautiful in a sing-songy sense, but also just like topically quite grim.
Yeah. Well, as for the lyrics as a whole on this album, are they again very much focused on the idea of the waste of a bygone
there's
species?
there's so much that we've done
Yeah.
1,000 times before on this album, but this one, the end of mankind, the worship of false idols, or incorrect incorrect monikers of modern society. There's song about war, song about Detritus of the Final Age, of course. There's a couple of personal songs about feelings of worthlessness or despair. There's all those classic tropes. Religion, there you go. Religion as well. I'm bringing that back again. I tried to steer clear from that for a while, just because I thought it was too hackneyed and a little bit of a low-hanging fruit. But I'm back on it now. So
yeah, you got to have a break from Jesus is coming, we'll get him again.
Yeah,
but
I mean, Christianity's the only one that I feel comfortable bashing in music. I'm not sure if I delve into some of the other ones through fear of one day we'll get there.
Yeah. I mean, I remember years and years ago, a Scouse comedian called Alexi Sale talking about jokes about religion. He was saying, he said nobody ever makes fun of fundamentalist Islam. And for good reason. You won't see me doing the same either.
I know Stuart Lee does a couple of anti-Islamic stand-up kind of routines, but in a very tongue-in-cheek kind of way.
Yeah, there's ways and means of going about it. There's a line between making fun of it and just being a dick.
Very much, that line between being like factually hilarious and just kind of racist.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That line we all walk.
But as for the two singles I mentioned there, how well do you feel they represent the album as a whole?
Obviously, those were some of the cream of the crop picks that we put out there with the guiding hand of the ever present Metal Blade Records, and I think putting songs that are long enough to kind of get a point across. There's short songs on the album, there's longer songs, there's like a 9-minute track on the album as well. We didn't want to do that as a single because that's not really how we kind of do things. You'll just have to. Sorry about that. Apologies for the laughter in the background. Someone's having a good chat with their mum, I think. But yeah, the tracks that we put out were kind of like a blanket of what the album is. It's got some fast stuff, it's got some hooky stuff, and it's got some, it's got a little bit of that evil that, I really wanted to get across in this album. Like As We Breach in particular, like tonally is kind of what I was, really aiming towards for this album. And Detritus, I think, is kind of like a classic Harlott song. Like it's got a bit of a feel from the first album, which a lot of people really enjoy. So you kind of throw that out there so that all the old fans will pick up the album as well.
Yeah. Are there any plans to doing videos for this album as well?
We spent Saturday. We spent Saturday filming something. We just came out of really severe lockdowns in Melbourne.
Okay.
Like we I think it was some obscene amount. It was like a good 12 weeks of no leaving your house unless you're going to work or shopping for groceries. No visitors, no pubs, clubs, restaurants, bars, cafes, anything like that were open. Like we had it pretty tough for a while, but we got our COVID cases down to 0, just in time for us to get together and do a film clip on the weekend to hopefully have by launch day.
Oh, that's cool.
So yeah,
I'll
and of
look
course
forward to
because
seeing
it's
that.
a
Sorry,
film clip, I refuse to take it too seriously because that's kind of how I am. But this one's a little bit more professional than our one existing film clip.
Well, I was going to say the systematic reduction video. That's
Yes.
fucking hilarious. That's one of the funniest music videos ever.
I'm really glad you enjoyed it.
It's
I
just
kind of find
the bullet
I
on the
find heavy
string,
metal
man.
film
It
clips a
makes me
bit
laugh
silly.
every time.
Yeah, metal clips are a bit silly, and if you're trying to make 4 minutes of people just looking tough, it can get pretty boring. So I just try and I did what I do best, and I did not take myself very seriously at all for the minute and a half song, stretching it out for a 2.5 minute film clip with the best story at the start. Hopefully, you get a good chuckle out of the next one.
Oh well, I look forward to all the more now. But let's talk a little bit about the artwork. The artwork's really cool.
Thank you very much.
No, you're welcome. I couldn't find out who did the art for this one.
Andrei Buzhikov, same bloke we do the last two albums with. So he did Extinction and Proliferation before it. He's got a really good ability to hear what I like, a really bland statement that I'll give him, like a really rough idea, and he kind of turns it into exactly what I was picturing without me knowing what I was picturing. He did that incredibly with Extinction. And on this one, I gave him like, an image of Google Images and just said something like that. And he added all the stuff that made it perfect for what I wanted. It's got the right color scheme, so it stands out from the other albums. It's got that circular theme in the middle, and it's kind of an extension on the destroyed Earth of the third album, being like the destroyed monument in the front of the Geneva buildings, wherever that is. I should know where that is. Somewhere in Europe.
You mentioned Metal Blade earlier on. How's the relationship with them been thus far?
I would say quite good. I would love to know what they would say, but they're incredible to work with. They're very they've got their finger on the pulse. They know how the industry works, and they know how bands work. So they don't flog you for things. They don't set unrealistic expectations. They understand that you need your space and your freedom to be creative, and then they'll get the best products that they can out of you. So they're just total professionals. They've got great ideas and incredibly supportive. And over this will be our third album with them, and they just get better every time. They get more and more invested. They're always they're highly complimentary about the music, which is great, because I think it's we deal mostly with the German office, and it's, I don't know if it's as much as it is a business, I think it is just a bunch of people that really love heavy metal, so they get quite excited when you send them material.
Especially in Germany, man. That's like that's on par with.
There's a couple of dudes in the company that they're obviously like their 40s, 50s, and so they just live through that 80s era, and they get very excited about what we do.
Yeah. Obviously, like I say, we touched on earlier lockdowns and things like that. How much has COVID affected this album as a whole?
It delayed it reasonably significantly.
Okay.
We were supposed to be in Europe in May to do Pit Fest in the Netherlands and Hard Rock Festival in Germany, as well as a couple of club shows just to fill in the gaps. And so we were supposed to have the album out by then, but it hit a point where it was hard for us to get into the studio. It was hard for us to justify trying to rush anything out if those tours were going to look unlikely. So they hit March this year, and we just said, "Oh, bugger it, we'll just wait. We'll see what happens over the next 6 months, and we'll decide later."
Yeah. Just to finish up with, there's obviously in the mid 2000s there was kind of a thrash revival, as it's called.
Yes, I love this question. I'm excited for it already.
Some bands, they've lasted longer than others, including Harlott. As Dave used to say, Harlott have outlasted some bands.
Yeah.
When these new crop of thrash bands came up, yourselves included, what was it you attribute to the renewed interest in thrash and the what really made these thrash bands stand out from the 80s predecessors?
Um, it's you went a direction on this that I wasn't ready for, which is good.
Yeah.
So the thrash revival in the mid 2000s. The beautiful thing about Australia being this like closed circuit kind of system, we're a good 5 to 10 years behind the other wave. So when we started releasing material in like 2000, like 13 onwards, thrash was like starting to pick up in Australia. Like we were having a thrash revival. So there was a good period, there was a good 5 years where, thrash metal was the big thing in Australia, and we were coming up, and we just kind of, we managed to catch the timing to be quite a big deal, at least nationally. Because mid 2000s in Australia was grindcore heaven. Like that was what we were doing at that time. And I remember those years fondly. Like with all these, just every show had bands like Captain Cleanoff and Fuck I'm Dead, and just blast beats for a solid 30 minutes, which was 27 songs, and then they'd hop off the stage. And I've got no idea why the thrash revival happened, when it happened, and how it happened. But I just remember. I remember the first time I heard Havoc's covering Fire, and realizing that there might be something happening. I nearly quit music at that point, hearing that song, considering it to just be like a perfect track, just being like, damn it, they don't need me. Someone else is already doing this way better than I can be bothered. I'm not sure what sparked it, but look, I'm glad that it worked out the way that it did. It's helped us a lot, but at the end of the day, we just kind of played the music that we liked, and I write the music that I want to play. And I was just very fortunate that it lined up timing wise. There was no conscious or active effort to try and cash in on the thrash revival as it was, but it just happened to line up quite well.
Yeah.
And it was a shock for us because thrash was doing quite well in Australia when we started getting anywhere. I was 25 years old, first time in Europe, touring around, and people were asking me why we were playing thrash when it has like already re-died. I was unaware. It was news to me. I didn't realize that was what was happening. But look, I wish I could give you a pinpoint a moment that everything started to make sense, but I was just really fortunate for me that thrash became a big deal again for a little while.
Yeah, that's pretty funny to hear. It's re-died, and it's like, I'm just imagining you on the phone back home, like, thrash is dead.
Like, oh,
so's Michael Jackson.
It's like, man, I'm currently like playing with a band that started in the early '80s, and they're selling out. Like, I don't understand what part of thrash is dead, but sure.
No.
Like, if that's what you want to tell me, that's fine.
Yeah.
You still came here to talk to me about it, so
yeah,
it can't be that dead.
I mean, personally, I think that the younger thrash bands to come out in the last decade. I mean, I know Harlott started in 2006. I think, was it 2009 your first album?
First, like, I think like a demo kind of thing. We did like a demo. We did a 2011 EP, and then albums from 2013 onwards. I've been doing this since I was like a 16-year-old kid. I'm like Dave Sanchez. Obviously Havoc have done incredible things.
Yeah, but so like I say, I think first album 2013, and so there's bands like yourselves and Nervosa and quite a few others as well that have come out in the last decade, and I think they're a lot better than the thrash bands that first got noticed in the thrash revival.
There's a lot more scrutiny on what we do, and there's a lot more pressure on us. Like, we not only have to be faster and heavier and harder than those classic bands, but we need to do it in a way that we won't just get aggressively lambasted for stealing all their work, which I haven't managed to avoid yet. I can't release anything without the Slayer Exodus comparisons. Sometimes I get compared to bands that I don't listen to nor have heard of, so that's always fun. People accuse me of stealing things that I've yet to discover myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's just, we've got an enormous amount of stuff to take influence from. Like, we've got the advantage of having, because the 90s heavy metal movements, and there was all the other genres that have like spawned off and sprawled away from thrash metal. We can listen to all those and find influence from those to introduce into our own music. So we do have that advantage, but we also have the disadvantage of needing to make sure that we're absolutely nailing it. Otherwise, we know we'll get shreds torn off us.
Yeah. I mean, from what I've heard of Detritus at the Final Age, that seems to be very much happening now. Harlott seems to have its own stamp on thrash metal, which is a hard thing to do for any thrash band, really, because there isn't an awful lot of variety in thrash.
No, it's it's a pretty artistically bankrupt genre.
Yeah. Yeah. But on that note, I wish you all the best with the album, mate. I'm really looking forward to the video.
No worries. Thank you very much, mate. It's
Thank
good
you
to have
for
a chat.
taking the time to meet me today. I do appreciate it.
All right, no problem, mate. Thank you.